in the middle of this pandemic that we're all experiencing, many people, including a lot of young people, were moved to protest police brutality and to call attention to the issue of systemic racism in the United States. Has your school provided the opportunity in the past to discuss race or racism? Looks like mostly sometimes, rarely, and never. So I want to hear from our student panelists. How would you want to see the topic of race or racism be addressed in class?
I know some schools try their best to have a no tolerance policy implemented in everybody's emails, but I do not think that that's enough to just have that policy. I think there does need to be an open conversation that needs to be had, because for me personally, a lot of times when we are trying to be taught about history, like specifically in history class, the topic of racism and the things that colored people go through in American history is kind of whitewashed or just brushed to the side or just not put into detail. But there's a lot of things that have happened that needs to be expressed, like the lynchings and the beatings and the killings, like all that needs to be right into the detail, and you can't hide it. We all know what's happening. It can't be going around or anything. It has to be expressed. We can't just keep going different pathways, be like, oh, let me say it in a subtle way. And for teachers to feel like they need to themselves just research, keep yourself knowledgeable about it, especially for the white teachers that aren't too sure how to approach the conversation. Just keep yourself educated and knowledgeable, and talk to someone who has experienced those type of things so that you can base it off their perspective and that you're not just basing it off the knowledge that you have received. So definitely the conversation that schools need to be straight on and to the point.
In the process of researching for the Power of Youth grant, I came across a bunch of organizations like Teaching Tolerance and a few others that are directed towards educators, and they provide a lot of resources with these exact types of situations. And they also have educator grants. So for anyone that's on the call that would want to have funding to lead a discussion like that, they have a lot of resources that you can tap into to kind of provide that space to your students.
People with disabilities, they're really attacked too, I think, and it needs to change. And I think if we create small groups at our schools during advisory lessons at my school, I have an advisory period. Pretty much that means we talk about kind of world and nationwide issues and even school issues. And I think this would be a perfect place to kind of talk about these things, because you're comfortable with the people, you see them every day, and you're not really pressured to say something you really don't believe in, like if you were in a large group. And I really think that the majority of people don't like racism, like myself. And I think once you separate these people and have them have these very heart-to-heart conversations and these very needed conversations right now, I think this is something that could hopefully be changed in the future.
Something that I really want to see schools, like when we come back, it can't just be, this is just politics, this is it happens, but what can you do? Because this is the reality a lot of students go home to. This is the reality I go home to. So for schools, I definitely think they should have an open conversation on how this is affecting students. My school, personally, they had we had meetings, like Google Meet meetings, to talk about how we thought about everything that was going on with the protests and rioting and things like that. And we gave our opinions. And we had to school some teachers and a lot of things they didn't know and weren't aware of. So that's something definitely like schools have to put in account when we go back to school in September.
I know some schools try their best to have a no tolerance policy implemented in everybody's emails, but I do not think that that's enough to just have that policy. I think there does need to be an open conversation that needs to be had, and for teachers to feel like they need to themselves just research, keep yourself knowledgeable about it, especially for the white teachers that aren't too sure how to approach the conversation. Just keep yourself educated and knowledgeable, and talk to someone who has experienced those type of things so that you can base it off their perspective and that you're not just basing it off the knowledge that you have received.
The main thing that I said is actions speak louder than words, and I think this can apply to a lot of the things that we've been talking about, from mental health to racism. just saying that you're going to commit to anti-racist policies is nothing if there's no action. And it's great to say these things, but you have to actually commit to it. And also it's important to hold institutions accountable and, make sure that they actually follow through with what they say. Like personally at our school, like one of our goals is diversity. And I said this in my comment, it's nothing if diversity is just plastered on the wall, if there's no actions and no steps taken.